You ever get that feeling when everything is going right, and then, something happens and it just humbles you. And football can do that to a lot of people, to the best of us. I'm going to be previewing Arsenal Sunderland game. But before I do that, I do want to acknowledge um, today is a little bit of a hard day. Most of you will know I'm a fan of American football, and I have another channel that I talk about the NFL. Um, I support Dallas Cowboys, and some really disturbing news came out yesterday. Dallas Cowboys player Marshall Nealon, who tragically lost his life early hours of the morning, and it hit very hard. It did hit very hard, and there's lots of reports about what happened, and the details are not exactly very clear, but it looks like one of those where um, it seems like he took his own, right? And had a pregnant girlfriend, lost his mom, I think a year ago, and just came into the league, second. And the funny thing was that on Monday, he had a good game, even though the Cowboys lost. He scored a touchdown. He's a defensive player, and you don't tend to score touchdowns as a defensive player. So it was one that he cherished, and you would expect that to be such a high, for a player. Um, and then only a few days later to be gone. It does give you perspective. It gives you context. About life. About family, about the people that are around you. You gotta check on people. Gotta check on people. Check on how they're doing. Um, because everyone is going through something, at one point or the other. Everyone's going through something. Um, yeah, this is a tough one. Let's get into the preview. Okay, so Arsenal are rolling, keeping clean sheets, handle Burnley, handle Brighton, went into the Champions League, Slavia Prague 3-0, and now is back to the Premier League. And Sunderland are unbeaten at home. They are full of belief and they are captained by none other than Granit Xhaka. So here's the question, guys. Will Arsenal keep that title rhythm going? Or will Granit Xhaka lead Arsenal to their first defeat in a long time? Okay, so Arsenal are coming into this 5 wins in four on the 5 wins on the bounce, four clean sheets in five of those. Only considered 3 goals throughout the whole season. It's very mature football. It's the Arteta way. We always talk about the Wenger way, the Pep way. You feel like this is the Arteta way. Very defensively solid. Don't give anything away. Be controlled. Um, and be flexible on the pitch as well. And with the international break that is looming, guys, there's so many injury doubts. Squad rotation is going to have to be key for Arsenal in this coming days. Victor Gyökeres is most likely out. I don't see him playing in this game. Odegaard's still out. Havertz is out. Gabriel, Jesus, Martinelli, excuse me, is also out as well. So I don't expect any of those. So we expect to see a few fresh faces in this game. Good news is that Martin Zubimendi is back from suspension. And Saka and Rice are looking very, very sharp. Looking very, very sharp. And let's not forget the bigger picture, guys. Liverpool and Man City play each other this weekend. So Arsenal get another opportunity to take a huge step towards the Premier League title. You win this game, you stay top, and you start to put a seed of doubt, into people's heads. I know it's never done, but one of this team or both of these teams are going to lose point, Man City or Liverpool. So Arsenal need to capitalize on that, either taking, an extra 2 points away from those guys. It's only 11 games, but I think this game is so, so, so important for Arsenal. Let's look at Sunderland. So I've been looking at Sunderland, and they are having a strong start to the season, probably better than any promotion team has had in a long time. They've been the stories of the Premier League. Came in August, and they are sitting fourth in the table after 10 games, and they're unbeaten at home. As well. They've built a proper fortress at the Stadium of Light. 2 wins and 3 draws. Um, I used to live up in Newcastle back in the day, and I used to remember, um, especially when there was a Newcastle Sunderland derby. Sunderland was always one of those places that, you never really wanted to go to. They're hard nosed, in your face, sort of fan. So I expect this to be a very difficult atmosphere for Arsenal when they go into the Stadium of Light. And of course, Granit Xhaka is at the center of it all. And if you watch the beginning of this video, I talked about something that was devastating in another sport. But Granit Xhaka is probably a player that exemplifies going through a very, very difficult time. This is November. I'm recording this on a Friday before the Arsenal game, and it's 7th of November. And it was probably about 6 years ago, 2019, about October, end of October. Arsenal had a game against Crystal Palace. Um, and this was Unai Emery's time before Mikel Arteta came into the club. Arsenal had a bad result in the previous game, or lost to Sheffield United, I believe, away from home. They then had a Carabao Cup game against Liverpool in the next game. This game started, and it's not today that Arsenal started scoring set pieces. It's been something that they've been doing for some time, because in this game, Arsenal scored 2 set pieces. Um, um, Socrates, I believe, scored one, and I think it was David Luiz who scored the second one. I think so. It was 2-0 to Arsenal, Crystal Palace, and then Crystal Palace comes back. They get a penalty. Zaha goes over, gets a penalty. They score from that, and then Ayew scores the second one, and Arsenal were down, back 2-2 in this game. And a lot of players, were not exactly at the top of their game. I remember Guendouzi had a horrendous tackle. Should have seen a red card for that. And then Unai Emery took off Granit Xhaka. And what happened next was something that I'd never ever seen before. And listen, Arsenal have never really had, since we lost Vieira, Vieira left the club. There've always been questions around the Arsenal captaincy. Who's the right person? Is he the right person? I remember William Gallas, captain of Arsenal, and there was the game that he sat on the pitch, and I was just like, what is going on? And so it just felt very raw. And I can imagine, the way the fans were feeling in this game. Unai Emery is taking Granit Xhaka off, and they're booing. I was very shocked, when I saw that. It was very disheartening as well. This is your captain, you're booing him, and all of that. And then Granit Xhaka does something that I don't think you've ever seen before. Take off his handband, captain handband, and then take off his shirt and walk straight down the tunnel. And that was it. I thought that was the end. I thought that was the last time we're gonna see Granit Xhaka. I think everyone was understandably frustrated, angry. Arsenal was in a bad way during that time. Um, and Granit Xhaka even said it himself. He was done. He was done with Arsenal. And then a couple of weeks later, Unai Emery gets the sack. Mikel Arteta comes into Arsenal in December, and then have a conversation with Xhaka. And Xhaka said 2 conversations from Mikel Arteta, and he made the decision to stay. And we all know how that story ended. Almost won the league with Xhaka. He then left, but he would always have a different kind of perspective for Arsenal. I think there's a lot of Arsenal fans now, who, on reflection, will be looking at Xhaka and be considering, he was something very good for Arsenal despite the hard times that he went. And listen, this game is going to be a bit of an emotional one for Xhaka. He'll be playing against a club that, he captained. He'll play against a manager that he respects and loves. But Xhaka doesn't do anything, half-hearted. He's 50-50, in the tackles. He's 110% in his effort. There's the one thing that you will never say about Xhaka is that he does not give the effort, the maximum effort he always gives. And there's no surprise why Sunderland are the way they are right now. So this is going to be a hard game. You couldn't script it, any better. Sunderland manager has really got them organized. They're 5-3-2, a lot of times when they're sharp, resilient, and they're compact, especially against bigger teams. And, this is going to be another tough game, similar to Burnley, where Arsenal will suffer, in this game for a certain period of time. Now, they haven't beaten a top side team in 23 Premier League attempts. And yes, you will say that they beat Chelsea, but I'm talking about a team that was in the top four at the time that they visited them. And it would just be one of those scripted things for Granit Xhaka to score a 35-yard pile driver, against Arsenal, to end Arsenal's streak. But I think that, the tactically for this game, Arsenal will need to try and suffocate, Sunderland with possession, high press, structured lines, patient build up. I don't know what the lineup is going to be because it's going to be really tough to tell. I'm not quite sure how the players are feeling it. There's been a lot of games that the Arsenal players have played recently, so I do expect to see a lot of changes in the game. And Sunderland will want to drag this game, and make it a little bit physical. If you watch their game against Everton, they went to go behind and they came back, to draw that game. And they really dominated possession and the game for large spells. So this is not going to be an easy game. But statistically, this game is a mismatch, right? Arsenal are top three for XG, if you love that stat, and shots on target per 90. And Sunderland bottom five, for XG conceded. But they thrive at home and they build a lot of pressure to the opposition. So emotionally, this is going to be about focus. Arteta said after the Brighton game, we're in a good moment. The players show what we are building. But he knows these are the dangerous games. These are the games, cold November away from home that slip-ups happen. And, you're thinking about the international break, players might thinking, do they want to go? Do they want to stay? And all of those things. So you can't take your eye off the ball. Sunderland boss, said in midweek, they have to be disciplined, composed, brave, and believe in each other. And I think they're going to show that, in this game. So if Xhaka gets one over his, old teammates, I think it will be really, really hilarious and also funny, as well. And he will probably be saying something, to Rice, to tell Arteta that he still got it. I still feel like, Xhaka, when his playing days are done, he'll probably find himself in an Arsenal room or something like that, maybe a coach or something, if he goes down that route. So key battles for me, it's gonna be Rice versus Xhaka. It's gonna be almost like, Declan's composure, and then master versus mentor, because when Rice came in, he was supposed to be taking over that Granit Xhaka role, and there's a lot of debate, among the fandom. When Declan Rice got into the club, is he going to play as a six? Is he going to play as an eight? And we really missed. Granit Xhaka when he left Arsenal, we needed a player to step into that position. So this is going to be a battle I'm going to be looking at. And then it's going to be Zubimendi and against Clark, as well. This is a Sunderland winger. He loves to break the line. And Zubimendi has been really good positionally. He's been great, stepping into those places. And he's been a little bit like Gilberto Silva. Those of you who remember, we used to call him the invisible wall. He was just there. You just didn't see a lot that he was doing, but he was just keeping the midfield ticking, stepping in, getting the balls, passing in, making progressive passes. Zubimendi is going to be key in this game. And then Saka, you got to talk about Saka, his directness. He's looking very, very sharp. I know he had a little bit of an off game in Slavia Prague, but I think, Saka is clearly getting back to his best. I think this is going to be a game that Saka is going to have to, play, his best to get, Arsenal across the line. And then, of course, set pieces are going to be a game changer. For me, we scored 8 corners in 10 games, already the most in the Premier League. That's ridiculous, right? So Sunderland have got their long throw. We've got our corners. We're going to have to see how this is going to play out, guys. So prediction time. I don't think this is going to be an easy game for Arsenal, not by a long stretch. I'm tempted to go 1-0 to the Arsenal. I'm tempted to go 1-0 to the Arsenal. It's away from home. It's the sort of scoreline that we tend to get, away from home, maybe 2. But I think we will be building our foundation on being solid defensively. I think Saka or Gabriel score. in this game. It's going to be a tight game. But a win keeps Arsenal right exactly where they want. Top of the league going to the international break and taking advantage of our Man City and Liverpool who will be playing each other on Sunday. And let's just pray that the football gods, don't do something funny because this is how storylines are being made in games like this. So, guys, that's the preview. Um, I don't know the team selection. I think there's going to be one or two players that might. I think the back line might have a few changes. I don't know if Saliba is all to go in this game, but I would expect to see Calafiori, Gabriel, and maybe Saliba or Mosquera, either one, with Timber playing. In that midfield, Zubimendi and Rice definitely, Eze definitely, Saka definitely, and then I expect to see Merino up top as well, and Trossard playing. So it might be a bit of an unchanged team slightly, probably with Zubimendi coming in from one area in this game. But guys, let me know what you think. We'll be back after the game, win, lose, or draw, to do the full Pavilion debrief, instant reaction. Appreciate all of you for watching the channel. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share this with a lot of Arsenal fans. And this is a podcast that is all about Arsenal, and we like to talk about it in a calm way, and not ranting and raving no matter the results. And of course, sometimes we're going to let our passion out, but if you want a calm podcast, this is exactly the one that you want to listen to. So don't forget to subscribe and share, and always keep it Arsenal red.